Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be covering a wide variety of topics, but the first one we're going to cover is why I have not been around much. Well, in August, a friend of mine named Harold killed himself. Yes, that was the death I alluded to in one of my live streams. Yes, sadly, he took his own life, and that is something that, unless it's happened to you, is something that you're not really ever prepared for. Now, I wasn't that close of a friend to the guy, but we still knew each other. We still talked on a somewhat regular basis. And, well, he killed himself. And that was pretty bloody sad, and I'm still affected by it even now. It's one of those things, since I've never had someone that close that I saw on that regular basis die, I keep expecting him to come back, which is weird. It's like I feel like he's still on vacation. Like, oh yeah, man, this is what happened the last couple days. Oh, yeah. So that really messed me up when that happened. So that's why a lot of videos weren't created. But here's the best part about that. Literally 2 weeks later, hurricane, and had to deal with the aftermath of that. No one got flooded on my end. And ultimately with that, my mother actually almost got flooded, but thankfully did not. So that was good. So yeah, it's been a messed up couple of months. That's the thing, though. You know, you never. That's something. Death is an interesting concept. You know, it really is. Unless you actually have someone fairly close to you die, you don't really know just how worthless random platitudes really are. Hence why when I cover Vegas, I'm not going to be like, it was a terrible, horrible act, because it is. Obviously it is. But just saying that doesn't really help. Because when someone, kills themselves, people are all like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It's like, yeah, thank you, but that doesn't really help. But their heart's in the right place. But ultimately, none of that really adds up to much. But yeah, here's the thing though about suicide and things of that nature. You know, someone might say, if guns had been banned, he wouldn't have done it. Technically, that's not true because he had been on some antidepressants. That, I think, is the big killer in America today. Antidepressants, opioids, stuff like that, not guns. But technically, he'd chugged 2 bottles of Klonopin. If ever you are depressed and want to go on antidepressants, don't take Klonopin. They will cause suicidal thoughts, and well, as we've seen with old Harold, it will lead to that. But he technically chugged 2 bottles of that, and from what I was told, if he hadn't shot himself, he would have died from those. So yeah, it wasn't really the gun that did it; it would have been those. Really, if you want my 2 cents on Vegas, there are several things that need to be done, and gun control isn't one of them. Gun control is sort of it's the easy option. It's like, it's the gun that did it, not the multitude of societal issues that need to be solved. Number 1, American society today is way too materialistic and way too nihilistic, and most importantly, way too narcissistic. This is something that's been going on for the past 30 years. All this has kind of led to a me culture. It's where I'm the most important one there ever was. I deserve to be successful. I deserve this. I. And when they don't get it, they snap. But it's not just that. It's also the media. Now, people have different reasons for disliking the media. I, of course, dislike the media for one major reason. They turn spree shooters, terrorists, and people like that into celebrities overnight. And I think that is probably the biggest reason why we've had so many spree shooters. They see this, because they watch the news too. They see on the news, if I go shoot somebody, or shoot a lot of somebodies, I can be a celebrity. I can mean something now. And that's a lot harder to deal with than ban all guns. If you ban all guns, yeah, that's easy, right? Doesn't necessarily mean it'll solve anything. And if gun control worked, then why did Paris happen? They had guns, and they shot up 200 people. So yeah, and keep in mind, France has much stricter gun control laws than America does. In fact, in France, you cannot own a rifle chambered in any military cartridge. Now that might seem like, yeah, it's a good idea. That also extends to cartridges over 100 years old. For example, you cannot own an 8mm Lebel in France, because the 8mm Lebel was once a military cartridge. See how that works? Kind of stupid. But ultimately, gun control is not the answer. It's where we need to start trying to work on society. We need to get people a little less narcissistic. Narcissism is probably one of the biggest problems today. Because that me generation They think they're going to be, the great hero of the world, and when they don't do it, that really messes them up. But but that's a lot harder to solve than just banning a gun. The same case is with the media turning spree shooters into celebrities. That's a lot harder than banning a gun because the media, I hate to say it, but they love this stuff. They eat it up. They love tragedy. They love destruction. They love death because it gets the ratings. How are you going to make the media not cover a spree shooting? Because that's where they get their money. But that's what needs to be done. It emboldens these people. It makes them see this it's like, if I go kill a bunch of people, I will be somebody. The other issue that you need to keep in mind is the fact that you don't want to make a bunch of decisions while panicking. After 9/11, the American government was panicking beyond all imagining, and that's why they were able to ram through that Patriot Act, which actually made things appreciably worse. And then we have to on the subject of the Patriot Act, the Patriot Act gave so much power to the federal government, it's not even funny. But when it comes to these spree shootings, people seem to be ready to just give up liberty for some perceived security. Right now, we have a very surveilled populace. I mean, right now my phone can be used as a bug. People have, those Alexia things where you can talk into them and they'll give you recipes and stuff like that, but that's just a wiretap in your house. I mean, let's be reasonable, it is. And do you really want the federal government to have more power over your life? I mean, if you trade liberty for security, you really do deserve neither, and ultimately you will get neither. Because the government can only provide so much security. They have to know it's happened before they can do anything. It's the same way with the cops. Now, the cops, I know that these days it's fashionable to hate on the cops, but where do people run to when a problem arises? They run towards the cops. But with the cops, they have to know something has happened before they can actually intervene. And then it's getting into the concepts of response time. The cops have to be able to respond to it and get there. If they had a 1-minute response time, that's plenty of time to be killed in. And ultimately, though, ladies and gentlemen, how far do you want to take government protection? Do you want metal detectors in every building? Do you want searches everywhere you go? I mean, ultimately you have to ask, how far does that go? And ultimately, this has nothing to do with gun control, because gun control only means you can't get a gun. It doesn't actually mean it's going to stop anything. It's one of those it feels good concepts. It's like, we're doing something, but it doesn't really do anything. So I know some of you guys will be pro gun control, but the thing is, what I'm trying to impress upon you is that doesn't solve anything. It's nihilism, it's government getting involved, not government, it's the media turning spree shooters and massacres into media events, turning spree shooters into celebrities and stuff like that. But I think there's one other thing I almost forgot. America right now is on so many pills. I'm talking like the pills that they have Americans on, it's insane. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Klonopin, my friend Harold, he was on that trying to get out of depression, and ultimately that killed him. And I think that is likely something that's causing more problems than not. When you've got yourself on these kind of pills and they're messing up your mind, that could lead to some problems as well. The guns are only tools. There's so many other problems that are much more difficult to solve than just banning guns. Really, a lot of those antidepressant medicines, I just highly recommend not going on them at all, because every one I've heard of, they cause suicidal thoughts. They cause all sorts of medical problems. It just does not seem worth it to me. But yeah, guns just make for a very easy thing to point to and see, that's what did it, when in fact it's so many other issues that they have to be solved. They're going to have to be solved at some point. You can only use the excuse of guns for so long before, just no one's going to listen anymore. But ultimately, that of course is my depression hour for today. As far as old Harold, I'm still kind of messed up from it. I'm still pretty sad about it, because he was a really cool guy. He was a tech guy like myself. And he was one of the few people that actually was in Houston that I could talk to about tech. He was really cool with it. He wasn't a big gamer, Although he was a bit portly, I will say. Well, I never made fun of him for it. Although I always wanted to call him Fork Firebeard just because he had a massive beard, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I'm very aware of that when it comes to people. I don't like to say stuff like that because I do not want to hurt their feelings. I know what it's like. But he was a big he liked one game in particular. He was a big fan of Star Wars Heroes. I have no idea why he played it. And I have no idea how he played it. It was some sort of I think it's like some sort of kind of MMO. It's kind of like a phone game. I remember he went out and bought an iPad Air 2, and I had no idea why he'd buy an iPad Air 2 just to play that bloody game. Because I'm not a big fan of Apple. I just don't like Apple. But and he played that game. The thing is, he was still playing it. I being one of the few tech people around, was the one who had to deliver the bad news to his. There's like a little group. It's like a clan in that game. I had to yeah, he passed away. That wasn't fun. I can tell you that. But yeah, he loved that game. He had like this clan he was in, and he was like. I remember he had like flow charts of what they were gonna do. It's like, man, and that's just for a cell phone game. And he was also a big fan of Boba Fett. Big fan of Boba Fett. I like Boba Fett well enough, but I'm a bigger fan of the Clone Troopers, honestly, because Boba Fett in the original EU is an asshole, and he gets better in the Legacy of the Force series, but man, he's an asshole. But he never read into the EU. He just was a fan of the movies. But he was a big fan of Boba Fett. Had this really cool pair of Boba Fett shoes. I was like, now that, ladies and gentlemen, is dedication. When you got Boba Fett shoes. But he also was the one who told me about Deadpool. This was a number of years ago now. He showed me the test footage they did for Deadpool. Now, I got pretty excited about that Deadpool movie, but I did not see it until just recently. Actually, I kind of forgot it existed. Deadpool's a very good movie. It's a little more crude than I thought it would be, but it works pretty well. And I think that's the best of the non-Avengers Marvel movies. They did a really good job on that. I remember reading that that Deadpool didn't have a very big budget, so that's why they didn't have a lot of shooty. But honestly, when it comes to shootouts, they're not as visually interesting as, punch-ups and with swords and stuff like that. So I think that actually worked better, that he couldn't just do the old shooties. I've actually, when I'm trying to get over all the sad stuff that's gone on, I've been watching a lot more TV and movies than I have in a while. So I finally did see Ash vs. Evil Dead. Ash vs. Evil Dead is a very good show, although, see, here's the problem. It's a very good show, but it could be better. It's one of those shows that it's very rough around the edges, and I think season 3 might fix some of that. The thing is, they are relying too much on the gore, and that's where it feels really, really padded. They'll have a fight scene, I think, go on way too long, and the show gets a little too predictable, especially midway through season 2, because they kind of do the same thing in each episode. Deadite shows up, kills a couple people, and then Ash has to kill him. And so anytime a new character shows up, you just know they're going to die. It's like, okay, come on, kill him already. Come on, kill him already. Thank you. Can we move along the plot? And it just gets boring after a while. Well, maybe it doesn't get boring, but it just gets old. It's like, come on, advance the concept just a little bit. It's very much like the original Evil Dead 2. But I think that works for a good movie, but it doesn't really work for that good of a TV show at times. Now, into season 2, that's where the show really picks up. There's an episode where Ash is stuck in an insane asylum, and that is really well written, really well acted, absolutely amazing. And I think if they keep on with that to season 3, I think the show is going to get really, really good. I really do. When they're not padding the show out with the violence and gore, it can get really good, because Bruce Campbell's a really good actor. The other two actors, I don't remember the names, but the other two actors in the show, because he has 2 sidekicks, they act really, really well. The show has really good humor. I think they just rely a bit too much on gore, and I think they need a little more confidence in their writing and their acting, because when they actually just slow it down a little bit, that's when the show really shines. The humor is really good. the drama is surprisingly good. They just need to they need to let it happen a little more. Let's see. Also saw The Expanse. A fan actually pointed out that since The Expanse came out, you didn't need to read the book, which I don't really agree with, but I will admit The Expanse TV show is a little bit better than the book. The Expanse TV show expands on a few things. It expands on a few things, cuts some unnecessary plot lines, but ultimately I enjoyed the TV show a little bit better. I saw the first 2 seasons. Really well done, really well acted. The special effects are absolutely amazing. One of my favorite TV shows in the recent years. Let's see. Started watching Stan vs. Evil. I just haven't finished it yet. Stan vs. Evil is pretty good. It's a diet Ash vs. Evil Dead. Doesn't have as much gore, but it does have the same problem of being fairly predictable. Monster shows up, kills a couple people. Then Stan, played by, I can't remember his name now. The guy who played Dr. Cox in Scrubs. That guy. He's the stand-in for Ash. He's pretty good. He's really funny. I think, honestly, the show has a little better humor than Ash vs. Evil Dead, but ultimately it falls in the same problem of monster shows up, gotta kill it. It's like, come on. Let's see. What other... Oh, yeah. My favorite show of the year is The Orville. The Orville is absolutely amazing. It is on Fox. It's a Seth MacFarlane sci-fi series. Now, at first, I was kind of iffy on that, because Seth MacFarlane, Family Guy, it's hard to say if he's actually going to make a show that's any good. It's Star Trek. I thought it was going to be, it was going to be like Galaxy Quest, but cruder. Nope, it's Star Trek. It is literally Star Trek. Instead of the United Federation of Planets, it's like the Interstellar Union, I think. Or is it the Galactic Union? I don't remember what the exact name is at the moment, but it's really good. It is Star Trek. In every way, it's Star Trek. The writing is Star Trek. The sets are Star Trek. Also, you gotta love modern day CG. It just looks good. The acting is Star Trek. It's perfect. It's a little cruder than what Star Trek normally does. Yeah, there's going to be some crude jokes, but as of the episode 4, they're starting to phase that out a little bit. But it's Star Trek. The last episode aired a couple days ago. No, yeah, as of this recording, it aired a couple days ago. When this goes up, there'll be an episode tomorrow, because it comes on each Thursday. But the last episode was a modern-day interpretation of The World is Hollow and I've Touched the Sky, which is an old TOS episode, where, there's aliens inside of this generation ship, but they forgot they were inside of a generation ship. And so, Kirk has to take out the computer. Well, in this show, they forgot they were in a generation ship, but there is no computer. And it's really good. Oh, yeah, Liam Neeson shows up. He was really good in that. But it was a good show. I absolutely loved it. There'll be, some your mom jokes here and there and stuff like that, but it doesn't really matter because it's Star Trek. It really is. The actors do an amazing job. Seth MacFarlane can actually dramatically act. I had no idea he could do that. The cast, really good. Like the cast is Star Trek level. Let's see. There's different characters or amalgamations of previous Star Trek characters. There's sort of a Spock / Worf analog. He's like the third officer of the ship. He's really cool. They've had a number of episodes surrounding him. And then there's, of course, the security officer, who is a really, really cute brunette who has super strength. Oh, yeah. Batman and Superman. But anyway, also saw Batman v Superman. Why did they have to make They basically made Batman into, as Lynn Carter would call him, ass bar. It's like, why? Just make Batman and Superman, at least talk to each other. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, the whole thing is really good. And they didn't turn it into an SJW show either. All the plot lines have been Star Trek standard, meaning it's... how exactly do I describe that? Because it's very hard to describe. They don't try to shove any sort of message down your throat other than, sort of be decent to each other. Which is really good. And really, the previous episode actually had sort of a anti-demagogue mindset to it, but it wasn't an anti-Trump thing. It was an anti, people like Antifa and groups like that. In fact, they even name-check hate speech by name. That was really good. Because right now, I'm going to go as far and say this. Trump, he's not the biggest threat right now. The biggest threat, and I don't even think Trump is a threat. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but the biggest threat we face right now is Antifa. These people are violent. They are utterly crazy. I'm talking like legitimately crazy. Their whole mindset makes no sense. And they're going out and bashing people over the head with bike locks. That's what they're doing. We've got it all on camera. We know exactly what they want. And, that is my bigger fear than anything Trump can do. Because I actually do want to cover this. One of the things about Trump you have to keep in mind, he's not some fascist dictator. He is still bound by the laws of the United States of America. If he was a fascist dictator, he could just force everything through Congress. But he can't. So instead of just sitting around saying how terrible he is, look at what he cannot do. He wasn't able to force through anything because he still is bound by the laws of the United States. Keep that in mind. Don't sit around saying how terrible Trump is when he's only one small part of the whole. Or put another way, don't get tunnel vision when looking at Trump and that you miss all these other threats that are out there. And it's the same way with gun control. Don't just get so tunnel visioned in that you miss everything that's going on. And that's something to really, really keep in mind. That's one of the biggest problems that we have today is everyone's sort of looking for that easy answer. It's Donald Trump. He's the one that's causing all the problems. No, not really. There's so many other things going on. Do not fall into that pitfall where all you see is this one obvious thing where everything else is going on off to the side. Let's see. Anything else TV show or movie related that I have seen? I actually saw, not too long ago, the movie Chappie. It's sort of like a modern-day incarnation of Short Circuit. It was actually pretty good. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, though. But it was still a fairly entertaining movie when I saw it. It's one of those Neil whatever, how do you pronounce it? Neil Mellencamp, I think, is a musician. Whatever, that guy, the guy who did District 9. He did a pretty good job on it. But once again, I'm not sure if ever I would see it again. It just was okay. And also, in Alamo Drafthouse, I've mentioned this on multiple videos. The one that used to be literally within walking distance shut down because they sold the theater. They sold it to a place called Star Movie Grill. It's not as good as Alamo Drafthouse, but it's not that bad. And they will sometimes show classic movies, and their chairs are really comfortable. Star Movie Grill is not bad. I guess when I say walking distance, it was about 5 miles. No, it's about 10 miles away. Alamo Drafthouse used to be. But now there are still some, but they're all like way far away. But anyway, Star Movie Grill isn't bad. They actually showed Close Encounters of a Third Kind. That movie has held up tremendously. It's one of those movies that when you see it in theaters, it's even better than if you just saw it like on Blu-ray or DVD or something like that. Very good movie. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. Absolutely excellent. It's easy to see why old Steven Spielbergo is so popular. Alright, so as for reviews, well, that's a good question. I'm going to try to get out 2 reviews in Octubre. One of which should be easy, one of which is going to be difficult. I'm going to be going for more quality versus quantity, meaning I'm going to try to make more reviews like Prey, which got really popular, and less reviews just where it's like 10 minutes of me going, yeah, the game's okay. The 2 reviews I want to do this month are Nosferatu, Wrath of Malachi, or Malachi, or however you pronounce that word. That's going to be easy. It's a first-person roguelike. It takes place in, like, Dracula's castle, and the castle is actually randomly generated each time you play the game. So that should be easy enough to do. The game's not that long, and I'll cover it exhaustively like I did Prey. But still, it shouldn't take that long to do. Hopefully. But the primary game this month is, of course, Evil Dead Fistful of Boomstick. It's a good game, although you want to know something funny? When I first played it, I got stuck, like, almost immediately, because I had to bring up the item menu, and I couldn't bring it up, and I didn't know what the control was. It turns out my select button on the controller was not actually mapped. Once I did that, it worked. Let's see, what else we got? So, those 2 games are going to be done. Yeah, I'm not sure when I'm going to get to Half-Life 2. That's just kind of been postponed for a while. Because, well, people dying and floods and all the rest. But ultimately, I hope I was able to explain, a bit about why gun control isn't going to really work, because if you put blinders on, you're never going to see what's really going on. And we really have to focus on the more difficult questions. We have to focus on the more difficult issues that are out there. It's very easy to just sit around and say Donald Trump bad, but not realize what also is going on as well. It's very easy to say guns bad without recognizing all the other problems that really are causing these shootings to happen. You know, I've always wanted to, whenever I do these vlogs, I'm not going to just regurgitate the same stuff that everyone else does. I'm not going to sit here and try to make myself look smarter. I'm just going to tell you to think. Because that's the thing. That's how I, GeneralLotz, was raised. You know, I wasn't force-fed information. I was told by my various parents to just think. You know, my grandmother and grandfather and mother, you know, it's like, you make up your own mind, you know. We're not going to teach you what to think, we're going to teach you how to think. You make up your own mind, you do your own research, you have your own opinion. And I think that's very important. Too often today it's like, well, you know, Jimmy Kimmel said this. Doesn't matter what he said. What do you think? That's the thing. You have to come upon your own opinions. You have to come upon your own determinations. Don't just rely upon other people to tell you what to think. Figure it out on your own. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to think at all. I'm just going to say, keep in mind of these things that are going on and make up your own mind. And so, I am GeneralLotz telling you to use that brain. It's up there for a reason. Or whatever makes you happy.